Okay, what we're going to be doing here is just a very basic guide to the diving class. We're just be covering some very basic strategies as to how to get the most out of the game. Now with this particular game, what we're doing at the moment is something slightly different to what I usually do. Usually the strategy I like to employ is a defensive strategy where you're waiting for them to come to you and just pick them off without them realizing they're going for one particular player, and you're fortunate enough to be out of their way and take them off before they kill your friends. Now what we're actually doing here is actually using the best defense as the best offense. So we're actually taking the fight to them, which it does work, but obviously you're taking a risk by swinging out on your own to take on the sharks unless you know exactly where they are and you're pretty much near the end of the game. At the moment, we're just being using a bit of bravado over common sense, and just the one strategy you can employ is obviously it will take them more than one shot to get through most scenery, and you can shoot through the holes in the scenery itself, so you are taking the advantage by picking them off if they're trying to get through to you. Again, that has trade-offs. If you're not careful, they're going to smash right through and just grab you straight away. And the majority of shark players who know what they're doing aren't going to hang around. They are primarily trying to get you and get you away from the group, because with any shark, once you're away from the group, you can actually take it a lot easier in terms of killing you off. There's less panic, and like any shark strategy, they're going to be looking for the weakest of the herd, the slackers, the stragglers that are basically lagging behind a bit, either for lack of attention or just poor playership. So yeah, make sure if you're going to do that kind of strategy, everyone's on the same ballpark as you. Everyone's doing the same thing, or otherwise you're going to be left. One pro tip that's not really shown in this particular video, but I often use, if you can get everyone to do it as well, it's useful, is using Steve as cover. Now, Steve often, let's be honest, he isn't the quickest of robots, but he does actually provide a basic cover for you. If the sharks are coming at you, they may well hit Steve instead. Now, if you've got a repair tool, that's not so much of a problem, because Steve is usually slowed down quite a large amount, to a larger degree, if he's damaged quite heavily, so this can be a problem. However, if you're trying to get between 8.A and 8.B without getting picked off and getting them an easy kill, using Steve as a cover, especially if you know which direction they're coming from, is actually a relatively sound tactic. With a repair tool, you're making it easier on yourself as well, and of course keeping the whole team alive in general. So if they hit Steve by mistake, Steve's going to be disabled for a bit, but to be honest with you, you've just about got enough room if you're talented enough to shoot the shark, obviously not there, to take him out, and by the time they respawn, you've hopefully repaired Steve and he's rebooted and you're on your way again. So that does work sometimes, because let's face it, some of the levels you're pretty exposed, and that's not advantageous to you. That's what the shark players are waiting for. They're waiting for that moment to pick you off again. Now, for most people who've been playing this game only for a day or so, in fact, I've been playing this game for actually for about 12 hours in total. It seems silly, but for like any game, there's always going to be basics that you don't understand when you first pick it up. With this one, health regeneration isn't so prevalent. It's useful, but you've got to expect with this game you're going to be dying a lot. If rage quitting is one of your things, you don't expect to be on this game for very long, because it's half the fun getting munched up and just watching your limbs get severed off, and realizing that salt water probably, in fact, as my colleague has said, isn't actually probably the best sterilizer. It's pretty painful. But keeping yourself alive is not so much of a priority. It's kind of an afterthought. If you're fortunate enough to survive an attack, in most cases, a first aid kit can come in handy just to keep your kill count down. In this particular case, we've managed to keep them at bay for quite a long period of time. And the basic strategy, if you're doing any game like this, is keeping yourself in the group. This game is like any horde survival type game. If you're straggling and you're getting yourself exposed, you're becoming a target, especially with non-AI players. Non-AI players are not stupid. They do behave like human beings. They're going to take advantage of any opportunity they see, especially when they're frustrated. And being an easy target is not something you want to be in this game. So camping and hiding is pretty much your best tactic for the basic part of this game, until you start developing a bit more skill and strategy as to what you want to actually achieve. With treasure, I would basically avoid it. until you know what you're doing. It's not worth the cost. You're more likely to get yourself killed unless it's right there on your doorstep. So golden rule with treasure is leave it well be unless you know what you're doing. Now, one of the key strategies that I like to use is mainly the mine, and there's a good reason for that, mainly because not many people really understand it as sharks. It's not very easy to spot unless you know the maps quite well, so for new players you're going to find it actually very useful to pick this up really early on, because a lot of the people are playing up, including myself at the moment, aren't that experienced with the game, so aren't familiar with the entire loadouts, and even if you are familiar with them, you can't really easily spot them unless you're either perked up to spot them through your sensors, or for instance you're just trying to you're basically targeting the players, in which case you're not be looking at these things, because I've had games where they just keep falling for it over and over again despite the fact I'm laying them everywhere. Obviously the best places are going to be smaller entrances, preferably finding the choke points where you're going to find sharks can be forced to come along, especially where I've put it on here. As you'll find out in just a second, it kind of backfired but still paid off in some respects. So yeah, the sharks are going to be coming to you. This is what you want to be doing as a diver, forcing them to come to you, not try and give them excuses to snip you off whilst you're away from the herd. There's one. I've obviously not spotted it, and as I'm coming back, yeah, basically I walk straight back into it. So they're not like C4, they're not going to nuke you off the map, but obviously being right next door to them is not going to be a good idea. So in this case, put them in somewhere where they're going to be away from your main area. I like to call it camping, because let's face it, that is what it is. And then basically just wait for them to come to you. This is on this particular level. This is one of my favourite spots, mainly because it's not very open, and obviously because it's not going to be broken into by some of the scenery, the destructible scenery. So they're going to, again, you're forcing the sharks to come to you, which I can't really emphasise enough. Is this is the main strategy that you're going to use to win? Because if you're out in the open, they're at the advantage. Now, as you can see, I'm using the shotgun at the moment. There's a reason for that, also just because of personal preference. It's down to you whether you want to use that or the AK. The main reason I'm tagging at the moment is the main strategy you want to be using with anything, especially on the lower levels, and even more so on the higher level sharks, is because once you hit them, even with the most powerful weapons like the shotgun, you're not going to kill them in the one shot unless you're on the absolute basic shark levels. So they're going to sneak away, and you're going to need to keep an eye. Like for instance here, you can see they've been spotted, and if this was a high level, they'd sneak away, regenerate, and be back in about 5 seconds flat to sneak a nice little lunch meat out your leg. So by tagging them, you're effectively giving yourself an advantage by being able to spot where they are and which chokeholds they're going for. So basically your team aren't going to be flying around like a swimming around around like a bar lined in the bats. I'm going to re-record that. Main reasons why you do not risk your life for £40 worth of treasure. The main reason, of course, is because any decent shark player will end up pick off anyone who decides to sneak out away from the herd. If you're sticking out from like a sore thumb in the middle of nowhere, this is going to happen basically, and then you're dead. It's as simple as that. That's what the shark players are waiting for. They are waiting for you to get greedy, to get impatient, to get bored and sneak away from the main herd. You've got to stick to Steve, because Steve's basically your landmark for where you need to be. Too far away from that and they're going to pick you off like rabbits. Now for this particular level, you've actually come across quite a good choke point. Both the sharks and the humans have to go through here. And again, as I stated earlier with the mines, they're not always the most easy to spot, especially when you're swimming around like a shark. You just try and get where you want to be as quickly as possible. So that hole right there is one of the prime targets for putting in these mines, mainly because you can't seem to, it's too late, and you're going to have to force them through it. So in most cases a mine will, at the lower level, kill them, at the upper level give you the opportunity to take them out with a secondary weapon. So I've taken the opportunity to put at least about 3 there. Some poor sod's going to run into that in a minute. You can bet your bottom dollar, and anything that doesn't is going to get us. Right, now as you can see here, I did get them, but of course the obvious trade-off would be I tend to lose my limbs and legs in the process of getting blown up at the same time, but of course they did take me with me. I got the, so it's a certain element of satisfaction, even though you'll never walk again. and you'll be pretty much quadra-spliced on a life glug for the rest of your life. So yeah, we've basically got through most of this level pretty well. It's pretty much been an even match. So even though we've been doing advantage to the shark, we've been doing pretty good. Now at this point, I'm actually taking a bit of a risk, but it doesn't really matter because we've effectively won at this point, regardless of what the sharks do. So I'm just taking advantage. Just you can actually snipe with a shotgun. It's not something that's only effective at a few meters. If you can get the range on it in terms of accuracy and a bit of lead to it, you're actually going to hit this. You can still hit most sharks and actually even kill them at decent range. So it's not so much a close call or sawn-off shotgun. It is actually worthwhile for longer range. So there you go.